The single greatest financial myth isn't that you need a lottery ticket. It's that you need a lottery-sized paycheck. We've been sold a story that only the top 10% of earners get to build real wealth, that the math simply doesn't work for the rest. But that story has a critical flaw. It focuses on the wrong number. It obsesses over the size of the inputs you bring in and completely ignores the mechanics of what happens inside the system you build. Your salary isn't your fortune. It's just the raw material. And today, we're going to build the machine that turns ordinary material into an extraordinary result. Forget what you earn for a moment. I want you to picture a quiet 24-hour production line. This isn't a factory for cars or gadgets. This is your wealth foundry. Its sole purpose is to take dollars, any dollars, and forge them into permanent, self-replicating assets. On a low salary, you don't have the luxury of dumping truckloads of raw material onto the floor and hoping something sticks. You must become a precision engineer. Every part of this foundry must be intentional, efficient, and automated. The good news? The blueprints are surprisingly simple. They rely not on force, but on consistency and a single powerful law of financial physics. That law is compounding. But let's give it its proper job title inside our foundry, the Permanent Apprentice. When you first hire a dollar onto your production line as an employee, its output is small. It works its shift, earns a tiny return, and goes home. But if you leave that dollar on the line and it brings its earnings back to work the next day, something shifts. That dollar is now a first-year apprentice. And an apprentice, if left to learn and work, gains skill. Its ability to produce grows exponentially over time. Your foundry's output isn't linear. It accelerates. The first few years, the hum of machinery is quiet. But decade by decade, the apprentice becomes a foreman, training new dollars, building a team that works while you sleep. The brutal mistake is shutting down the line every time you want a new toy or face a minor crisis. You're not just spending money. You're firing your most promising future foreman. Let's meet our first engineer, Maya. She's 25, makes $45,000 a year, and feels the weight of that low salary story. She decides to build her foundry. Her first act is to establish the intake filter. Before a single dollar of her paycheck hits her bank account, 15% is automatically diverted into the foundry's secure loading bay. That's $562 a month. She doesn't decide to save what's left. She pays her foundry first. That $562 is assigned to its station, a low-cost index fund, the core engine of her production line. She's not picking stocks. She's buying a share of thousands of those apprentices working in companies across the economy. Here's the shift. You're not budgeting scraps. You're funding a separate enterprise. Now, let's freeze Maya's life. No raises, no promotions. Just that $562 invested every single month. At a conservative average annual return of 7%, which is below the historical stock market average, what does her foundry produce? After 10 years, her total contributions are $67,440. But her foundry's value? Over $100,000. The permanent apprentices have been learning, adding over $33,000 in value she didn't manually contribute. But this is where the story truly begins. After 20 years, her contributions total $134,880. The foundry's value? Approximately $310,000. She's not a millionaire yet, but the machine's hum is now a deep, productive roar. The machine gains momentum the longer it runs uninterrupted. After 30 years, total contributions, $202,320. The value of her wealth foundry, $735,000. From a $45,000 salary. After 40 years, a number that feels like a lifetime but for a 25-year-old is simply a life? The contributions total $269,760. And the foundry's output crosses the finish line, $1.14 million. That is the pure mathematical output of her system. No side hustles required. No risky bets. just the relentless automated operation of the Foundry, funded before she ever saw her paycheck. The power wasn't in her salary, it was in the system that captured it. But a Foundry can rust from within if not maintained. Enter David, on the same $45,000 salary. He believes in effort, not systems. He works hard, spends consciously, and plans to invest what's left over at the end of the month. Some months it's $300. Most months, after life happens, it's $50. Some months it's $0. He's manually carrying buckets of raw material to the factory floor when he remembers, hoping to pour them in himself. His average contribution is a volatile $200 a month. He invests in the same fund as Maya. After 30 years, his total contributions are $72,000. His result? Roughly $260,000. A respectable sum, but not transformative. It's the difference between building an automated institution and occasionally feeding a pet. David worked just as hard for his money, but he spent his mental energy on daily decisions, while Maya spent hers on a one-time system design. Your most valuable asset isn't money, it's unbroken continuity. This reveals the core mechanism, the protocol of unbroken continuity. It's the single, non-negotiable rule of the Foundry. The system must run on autopilot, immune to your moods, your temptations, your changing priorities. The moment you make funding it a decision, you introduce friction. And friction is the arch-enemy of the low-salary wealth builder. For Maya, her intake filter created a frictionless world. The money was never in her account to be debated. For David, every month required a new fight against inertia and instant gratification. He often won the battle, but he consistently lost the war for compound growth. So, let's blueprint your Foundry. It has only 3 components, but each must be lock-tight. Component 1, the intake filter. This is your automated contribution, set up as a direct deposit split or an automatic transfer on payday. Its job is to make saving and investing a foregone conclusion, not an act of willpower. You decide the percentage once. Start with 10%, 12%, 15%, and the system executes, forever. This isn't a savings account. It's a direct pipeline into your investment engine. Component 2, the core engine. This is where your apprentices go to work. For 99% of people, this is a low-cost, broad market index fund, or ETF. Think of it as buying the entire apprenticeship academy, not trying to pick the one-star student. You're not a stock picker, you're a system operator. The engine's job is to harness the overall growth of the economy with near zero effort from you. Names like VTI, VOO, or VT are simply the model numbers of these reliable engines. You are not the mechanic. You are the architect who installed the machine. Component 3, the reinvestment furnace. This is the critical piece that most people overlook. All dividends, all interest, all earnings must be automatically funneled back onto the production line. You never take profits from this system. You never cash out the apprentice's wages for a vacation. Those earnings are new raw material, instantly forged into new apprentices. This is what turns linear saving into exponential growth. In your brokerage account, you ensure this by setting dividends to reinvest. That's the entire physical plant. But a machine needs protection. The single greatest threat to your Foundry isn't a market crash. It's you. It's the temptation to pause contributions during a downturn, or worse, to raid the Foundry for a perceived emergency. This is why you need a separate buffer reservoir, a cash savings account with 3 to 6 months of expenses. This isn't part of the Foundry. It's the shock-absorbing moat around it. When your car breaks down, you draw from the reservoir, not from the production line. You protect the continuity of the system at all costs. Now, let's project forward with a more dynamic example. Let's say you implement this at age 30 with a $40,000 salary. You direct 12% into your Foundry, which is $400 a month. You get modest 3% raises per year, so your contribution slowly climbs. After 35 years, at age 65, what has the Foundry built? Even starting with what feels like a trivial amount, the system generates over $1.2 million. The key wasn't the starting point. It was the 35-year runway of unbroken continuity. The Foundry doesn't need a spectacular start. It needs an uninterrupted one. Time is the Foundry's most critical raw material, and you are its sole supplier. This reframes every financial decision you make. That extra $100 a month from a side hustle? Don't spend it. Feed it into the intake filter. That annual tax refund? Don't treat it as a bonus. It's a bulk shipment of raw material for your Foundry. Every dollar you divert into this system is hiring a new permanent apprentice, one that will work for you and every future version of you. The goal shifts from, how much can I spend today, to, how can I increase the throughput of my Foundry? This mindset is the real wealth generator. Your path doesn't require a miracle, it requires a protocol. You are not waiting for a better salary to begin. You are beginning to build the system that will make any salary meaningful. You are not gambling on a hot stock tip. You are deploying a time-tested mechanism that turns patience into power. Today, you set up the intake filter. You select your core engine. You activate the reinvestment furnace. You protect it all with a buffer reservoir. And then you let the most powerful force in finance, the permanent apprentice, compounded over time, go to work. You become a millionaire on a low salary not by force of income, but by the fidelity of a system. You don't push the boulder up the hill every day. You build a gentle, perpetual slope that carries it upward on its own. The Foundry is now online. Your only job is to guard its continuity and to watch, year after year, as it forges the future you once thought was meant for someone else. Your wealth was never hidden in your paycheck. It was always waiting in the clock.
The single best financial decision you can make right now? Invest in your financial education. Hit subscribe to get our next breakdown and turn on notifications so you don't miss out, because the system only works if you apply it consistently. I'll see you in the next one.